Alright guys, confession time. Everything I've made on this show before today has been pretty easy. It's just things I've done before, so they didn't take too much effort. But for today, we're stepping outside of our comfort zone a bit. And I also understand we've done pizza / pasta a few times already. But I assure you, this one is different. Why? Well, I'll tell you. We're going to make our pizza dough from scratch. That is right. Not only that, it's the first time I'm doing it. So what you see happening is the first time we're doing it. So good, bad, or ugly, we will see how it comes out. And if you don't really like thick pan pizzas, we'll show you how to make a quick, easy, thin crust pizza with stuff that you probably already have. So anyway, here we go. So there's lots of different ways we can make pan pizza at home, but I'm gonna go back to old reliable binging with Babish, or in this case, his Basics with Babish episode on pizza dough. So we're gonna start with 240 grams of bread flour, to which we're gonna add in 1.5 grams of instant yeast. Go ahead and get those mixed together. And then we're gonna move on to our wet ingredients, which will be 170 grams of water and 15 milliliters of olive oil. And then go ahead and mix all those together till a nice, dough type situation starts happening. All right, and at this point, it became just a little bit too tedious trying to mix that with the wooden spoon because this is a high hydration dough, meaning the ratio of flour to water. It's a high hydration dough, so it gets really sticky. So I switched to my hand just to make it easier. We're gonna start kneading that by hand a little bit. And at this point, I also forgot about the 4 grams of salt we need to add to that. So get that in there and just start mixing with your hand. Again, we wanna get all that flour absorbed so there's no more dry spots. All right, and now that we've got something sort of resembling a ball of dough, we need to develop some gluten in that dough. So we're gonna do something, I guess, unofficially called the stretch and pull method. So go around each of the 4 sides of the dough ball and just stretch it over itself. And then we're gonna cover it with plastic, let that rest for 5 minutes, and repeat the process for 20 minutes. So again, that's gonna be once every 5 minutes, 4 times total equals 20 minutes. And I'm pretty sure that math adds up. All right, and now it's our 5th and final time to stretch and pull that dough, and you should notice a much smoother dough now. It's not as sticky, and it's obviously a lot more taut. So go ahead and form that into a ball and get that into a well-oiled container where it's gonna have plenty of room to expand because it will expand. So pop that in the fridge overnight until we're ready to make our pizzas. Oh, hey, it's the next day. So we're gonna start our pizza process here with making a basic sauce for our pizzas. I'm gonna do that with 28-ounce can of peeled tomatoes, and I'm gonna add in some salt, some pepper, some garlic powder, and a couple of little glugs of olive oil with my nice new oil dispenser. And then just pulse it a few times until it's nice and combined. All right, now let's go ahead and get that sauce in the fridge till we're ready to use it. And next up, we're gonna go ahead and grate some cheese. This is an 8-ounce cylinder of full fat, low moisture mozzarella, and this is the best cheese I could find at my local Fry's grocery store. Now, this 8-ounce cylinder will be plenty for 2 of our pan pizzas. It may not look like it, but trust me, it will be. All right, and then we're also gonna slightly undercook some bacon for our pizza topping. We don't wanna cook it all the way because then it'll overcook once we put it in the oven. All right, so now let's start getting these pans prepped for the pizza dough. I got my cast iron pan. This one is a 10-inch, and I'm gonna put in 3 tablespoons of olive oil. And it's also at this point I realized that you can see the reflection of my camera, AKA my phone, right there on that boom mic. And you'll also get to see my little Mega Man figure hanging out on that boom stand as well. Now let's go ahead and get one of those dough balls out of the fridge, which you can see has risen considerably. And you can also see I completely messed up taking that out of the container and completely bunched it all over itself. Anyway, go ahead and press one side down into the pan, get coated with oil, and go ahead and flip it over and start pressing it out into the pan as best as you can. Don't worry, this will get easier as time goes on. Now once you've got your dough stretched as best as you can into that pan, we're going to cover that with plastic wrap so it can rest for 1 hour. At that time, we're also going to preheat our oven to 550 with a pizza stone inside to preheat with it. We need that as hot as we can get it to help get that bottom of the pizza nice and crispy. Oh hey look, an hour passed already. Well, as you can see, an hour later, the dough has risen even more, and we are ready to start topping this thing. I've got my blender cup with my sauce that I made earlier, and we're gonna go ahead and lather that on. I was being a little too stingy, as you can see here. Add a little bit more because it can handle it. It's gonna be a nice thick crust. And then of course, we're gonna get our cheese on there. No exact measurement here either, just cover the whole pizza and make sure we get some on the edges because we want it to get all caramelized on the edges. That's what really makes a good pan pizza. Right, and for this one, we're going to make this a pepperoni and bacon pizza. That is a household favorite here. I'm just going to make this in a nice professional looking pattern and then go ahead and get my bacon that I cut up and just, spread it around. Nobody ever says there's too much bacon, so get that on there. And then it's going to go right onto that pizza stone that's been preheating for about 15 minutes or until the top is nice and golden brown. And then we're going to make the same with the other one. This is a 12-inch one with just cheese. So just put the rest of that cheese you have grated. And then by this time, your first pizza should be done. And this is looking just fantastic. I mean, look at that. That looks amazing. You got all the oil coming up the sides, crisping up that crust. And yeah, I couldn't be happier with the way this looks. Unfortunately, it didn't turn out that great on the bottom. Alright, but anyway, on to our cheese pizza, which again looks fantastic. This one I actually turned the broiler on for the last couple minutes to just brown up the cheese on top. And this one came out of the pan a lot easier too, so we were able to get some actual solid slices of pizza out of this. And it looks pretty good. It didn't puff up as much as I was expecting, but we got the caramelization on the cheese on the edges. And I'm pretty happy for my first attempt, and I think we can definitely do better next time. Alright, and as promised, here's how you can make a really easy thin crust pizza. I've got a 10-inch flour tortilla, which I've browned in a pan for a few seconds on each side, and I'm using a fork to dock it, or basically poke little holes so that air bubbles don't form when you bake it. We've also got some of the same sauce that we used on our pan pizza, and I'm just going to put a light layer on the whole pizza. And you do want to go light because this is a thin crust or tortilla, if you will, and that will turn soggy if you put too much sauce. And again, we got the same cheese that we used on our pan pizzas. Just a nice even layer across. You don't need too much because there's not much crust to get in the way on this one. And I'm going to put this on a rack on top of the oven rack so it creates kind of a cross section to add more stability so we don't have that fall into the bottom of the oven. Do 350 for about 14 minutes, and this is what you'll end up with. A nice golden crust. Cheese is nice and bubbly. Just cut that into 4 decent sized pieces, and there you have it. Alright, so as you can see, they looked a lot better than they turned out. The toppings came out great on both pizzas, especially that pepperoni and bacon one looked phenomenal. I can't really say for sure what happened with the crust, why it stuck to the pan like it did, but that's part of cooking. We learn and we move on. So maybe next time we'll oil the pan more or develop more gluten by stretching the dough further to get those gluten strands nice and strong. But hey, we know where we stand, we know where to improve. And I hope you guys really enjoyed this video, and we'll see you next time.